Hey, my name is Rex, and you're listening to Table Talks at Street Level Podcast.
Hello, I'm Aisha. I am 18 years old, and I am a multimedia journalist at Urban Gateways, or Mildsauce, or Street Level. I'm here with my fellow journalists talking about our solidarity pieces. We're just gonna start with introductions.
My name is Jai. I'm also a journalist at Street Level or Urban Gateways, whatever you'd want to call it.
My name is Alexa. I'm also a journalist here at Street Level.
My name is Lapassion Byndum. I'm 17 years old, and I'm also a journalist at Street Level Media.
My name is Toby. I'm also 18, and I'm also a journalist at Mildsauce.
Awesome. Okay, so that's everyone. So before we dive into our pieces, let's talk about what solidarity means to us. So solidarity means union or agreement, but I think of solidarity as a commitment to community, and like looking deep inside oneself to first figure out who you are before you create something for others. So yeah, somebody want to share theirs?
I guess I can go since I was. Solidarity personally means to just support people, but also it's kind of like a comfort thingy as well, because in certain groups like LGBT, gay rights, everything like that, and also maybe even like people of color spaces, there's a certain comfort to being a part of those groups, even if they're not always treated equally in a sense, because you can find a way to relate to that person no matter what.
Yeah, so just going off of what Jai said, I feel like solidarity is really about coming together and finding maybe a common ground in like your shared experiences, maybe with the person that you're experiencing solidarity with.
I agree. Top off of Jai, I think when I think of solidarity, it feels very warm and comforting. It just has a different feeling to it. It means unity, but I feel like it's something more special.
I guess to bounce off of that, solidarity to me is it's kind of like a support. I would say
Like a support group, yeah.
Yeah, specifically between communities and stuff. I would also like to emphasize the difference of communities, I feel, and their solidarity.
Yeah, because I think a lot of different groups can have different types of comfort towards them, because everyone faces different issues as well. So maybe people of color, especially Black people, may find solidarity in not really because racism is good, but racism is just it's a common thing they experience. But when it comes to maybe LGBT people or queer people or whatever, they may feel more connected because of their sexualities and less of the fact that they're oppressed, I guess. I don't know. It can really depend on any group.
It's cool. Toby, do you mind expanding on what you mean when you say different kinds of solidarity? Does it really match up with what Jai was saying,
I was more speaking of different types of group having solidarity between each other. For example, specifically during 2020 when Native American, Hispanic, and Black people were solidarity against police brutality and stuff like that.
That's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
It's very often that minorities come together specifically. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. So branching off of those questions or those answers, really, how do we foster solidarity between diverse spaces? Is it a feeling that you bring home with you? Is it something that you look for out on the street? Do you have a specific place that you go to where you can find people who are just like you?
I mean, since everyone really strives for comfort and calm or whatever, there's I guess that could foster it just by having a calm space in general as well, or just being more open minded or whatever. Yeah.
I don't think solidarity exists everywhere. It should though.
Yeah.
But a good place to find is with people you love or things you love. I feel like that. But solidarity should be everywhere. You shouldn't have to go looking for it. I feel like.
Yeah.
That's a great answer. I feel as though, for me personally, a way that I make solidarity, you can't really make solidarity, but in the sense of like the word, I'm part of an organization, and like every day we strive to go out for protests and hold events that just bring people together and offer help. I think, like you were saying, that even though solidarity should exist everywhere, it doesn't. And it's often in moments where solidarity doesn't exist that you find people coming together the most. And I think it's a really beautiful paradox, but it's really cool.
To add on to like the going out in like communities and stuff, I remember being part of a food pantry and also like a kitchen for homeless people.
That's cool.
And I'm no longer part of it. I think it's disbanded now, just because like I think they moved to a different area that I couldn't go to like easily or whatever. But I feel like adding on to that, you can also find a lot of people in those spaces, even if you are the volunteer. And also volunteering in those spaces is also nice, just in general, because giving comfort to people and also providing like support and that sense of like being stable.
That's awesome.
I also think that like deep down, just because we're humans, like something that you said earlier, that you can't really make solidarity, I think that we're just kind of born with the innate need for solidarity, because we're all human and we all need connection. So people are going to innately search for it and try and find it, even though it might be a little bit hard.
I think that's really awesome.
Humans are like inherently social anyway.
Yeah.
That's true.
I think that's why it's so hard to build a community nowadays, especially, or like find people that you trust wholeheartedly, because America as a society is just so individualistic, despite the fact that the people who live in it are supposed to be community. And I think that's what makes like small communities important, especially in Chicago. Like you have Little Italy, Little Palestine, you have Greek Village, Little Village, like just small neighborhoods and stuff that come
together. And even
together.
like Chinatown as well.
Yeah.
It may be more commercialized, but it's definitely an area where people like Asian Americans or really anyone can hang out.
Speaking on that, then I feel as though that's why when people move to Chicago, they automatically like drift towards communities where they are surrounded by people they know. Like back, I think around a year or two ago, when the Venezuelan economy collapsed and we had all those Venezuelan immigrants coming to America, a lot of them drifted towards Little Village, and you'll see a lot of immigrants like sleeping in police stations and like near food pantries and stuff around my neighborhood, and that's just because there is a language connection,
and also has options for them as well,
and there's more opportunities for work. And
also imagine just coming
school.
in and not being able to speak English, especially as well, because like if you know someone here that can speak Spanish and English, especially if you are coming from like Venezuela, in that case it's better to know someone that knows Spanish that can also probably teach you English as well.
Yeah, that's right. Lexi, you want to say anything?
Honestly, I don't know if this is I think it's actually respectful. Like, I respectfully disagree, actually, because I've had like an encounter with someone who attends Roosevelt High School, and that's one of the main high schools that is getting like a handful of Venezuelan immigrants. So they were just explaining to me that the Venezuelans tend to stick with each other, whereas they don't tend to venture off and talk to any other Hispanic American students. They don't.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they like
that's
to stick.
That's in my.
They
what my
very
one is
much
saying.
like to stick with the Venezuelans. They will not. It's very hard to get them to talk to anyone that's not within their group.
I feel like that's even
It
for
makes
our
sense.
community. Yeah, that's even for our community. Like you stick with people who are like you, who speak like you, who dress like you, who talk like you. Like And I guess that kind of is like the detriment of solidarity, is that
it separates you.
Yeah, it separates you. And some people even would be like, yeah, separation good, because that sounds terrible.
No, but in a sense, it brings comfort in a sense, because like if you're in an area where just one type of person is, you'll feel more comfortable there because you are also that one type of person. It is like, it's kind of like how there's like neighborhoods with like specifically Black people, Asian Americans.
It's kind of like
really.
deaf people in Maryland. I'm gonna move to Maryland when I'm older, but there's like there's a mostly deaf population in Maryland, and everybody just mostly
knows sign language or something. Yeah,
and
it's
so
more friendly.
Exactly, and so in order to, we watched a documentary. Well, I've watched a documentary before on how these two parents chose to raise their child in Maryland, in the specific community where only sign language is used, because almost everybody who lives there is deaf. And like the child grew up thinking that sign language was a common language. And then when they ventured out into the real world, it was a really hard adjustment to process. And I feel like that's what you were saying, the detriment of solidarity. Like, we're so enticed by people and communities that are just like us in order to find some connection, that we forget about the outside world, in a sense.
Kind of like an echo chamber.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it's important to immerse yourself in different spaces, diverse spaces, and then I think that's why I really love the section of like the topic of intersectionality, and how people are multifaceted, because we are like,
we're just so
we're different, but we're the same.
Yeah, because humans are like, just as us, like we're so advanced, I guess you could say, not like advanced technology wise, we're just so emotional, I guess you could say, because our brains are bigger than most like other animals or species and everything like that.
Dolphins.
Not dolphins, of course, but
no, dolphins are evil. That's what they are. Dolphins are the villains of the ocean. Yeah.
So long, and thanks for all the fish.
Wait, but Alexa, do you think that they don't want to branch off and talk to other Hispanics because of closed-mindedness, or just because that's just who they're comfortable with?
I think it's because they're scared. Like,
I honestly just feel like that's who they're comfortable with, because that's what they know. Like, they know their people, and to them, American Hispanics, like, maybe it's the same as what Jai is saying. Like, they're scared. They feel like they're not gonna welcome them. And I have talked to a lot of Hispanic American friends, and they do feel a type of way, like, there's already enough. This is a whole nother topic, but there's already enough like issues within our city, like homeless people and like people who are citizens here, and we don't give them any resources, but the people who come here from another country, like they get those resources. So I feel like some Hispanic Americans like feel that way, but it's not all of them, and I feel like so they shouldn't let that hold them back from like
connecting.
So it's beef of like who's getting what, and they feel like certain things is getting taken away from other groups. It's like discrimination between
I also think personally, there's in diverse groups there are different smaller groups as well. So like, let's just say, take the Hispanic people for an example. There are mixed Hispanics, there are American Hispanics, anything you can really think of, and I will include Venezuelan people in this as well. And there's kind of like those smaller groups in there that you feel like you can't interact with the rest of the community because they're not like you as well. Like even in like people of like black spaces, gay spaces, or anything like queer spaces, you kind of do feel like an outsider still, even in your own space, because so many people are so different. And I can see that with like gay spaces as well, specifically as an example. Like, let's say you're trans and also you are queer, and like, what if those are just two completely different things, but so many people can like focus on one part of you.
I see. That's really good. Then do you guys have any spaces where you feel like you should belong but you don't, like in with what Jai was just saying.
Yeah.
And what you were just saying, Alexa, do you have some place where you think you
want to be involved more,
and you want to be involved, but you just can't figure out how to bridge that gap?
I honestly feel like sometimes if I'm in a room with like, just because I was raised by a Filipino mother and Puerto Rican father, so I didn't have black parents growing up. When I'm around like a large amount of black people, I kind of feel like an outcast in a way, just because I wasn't raised around like black culture as closely as they were. So I feel like I don't get to relate to them the same way I want to relate to them. And so that's always been kind of a struggle for me growing up, you know, with going to high school, not just trying to find myself, like for who I am. And not putting a label on myself or anything like that.
Yeah, but I also feel like there's a certain issue with also just people would naturally want to have a label. Also, in adding on to what
this before,
after naturally kind of like wanting to fit into spaces, I am mixed and I am white passing, which is probably one of the curses I've been that has been brought upon me. And while I am white, but I am also Hispanic. I am specifically Puerto Rican. And my father grew up in more of like a Hispanic household, I guess you could say. Never taught me Spanish. I don't know Spanish as much as I would want to. And that also makes me feel like an outcast in a sense because, yeah, I'm Hispanic, but like nothing really shows that I'm Hispanic. I don't have the full experience. I really do want to learn Spanish though fully.
Duolingo. Do you have any spaces like that, Lapassion?
Kind of similar to Alexa. I did grow up with black parents, but like growing up a lot, I got told like the dumb remark of "you act white" or whatever.
You're like the white coded black.
Always.
Oh my
Even
gosh.
from black people.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
That's what's hurt. Because it's like, wow, like you can't
judge
encourage the different types of black people. Why does it always have to be one type? And if we don't fit in that category, then we're not black. Like,
So what if you act white? You're just kind of like yourself. Right?
And then they'll say that you act white for doing like good
Basic
things
stuff.
for yourself.
Yes.
You do your homework, you're acting white.
Yes, like
If you do
you dress nice, you act white. Like,
if you do skincare or whatever, like put the face mask on, you're white, guys. I don't know how to say any better.
they're basically making themselves look bad when they say that because you're saying those things are only limited to white people and we're below them for doing those things.
I feel like people try and separate themselves too much from other groups, and that's also the issue with solidarity as well because the minorities. And while I'm also part of a minority, like LGBT, queer, everything like that, I also believe that, like, a lot of groups just try and separate themselves 100%. Like, I feel like, I don't know. I don't know how to give a specific example. I've just seen it with certain people. Because, like, even in the gay community, I've seen, like, a lot of, like, specifically, like, trans people trying to, like, separate themselves from the gay community or something like reverse. I don't know.
Oh, like, kind of, God, what's her name? Oh, maybe I shouldn't drop influencers. What's her name? Something Claire White or something?
I know Blair White.
Blair White. She's this trans influencer, and she's like, I'm not like other trans people.
Yeah, she's a Republican trans girl.
Yes.
what? I've never heard of that.
Yeah, no.
She is
That reminds me of like Candace Owens because she's like a conservative black woman. It's like,
yes.
what?
Yeah.
Like-
You can believe whatever you personally want, but if you're kind of like just going against your own type of community, ooh, yikes.
Yeah.
I think that's also one of like the solidarity within communities because Candace Owens specifically, like there is a group of conservative black Americans and they find that solidarity within themselves.
Oh, definitely.
And then there are Republican trans people and they find that community within themselves.
There's always going to be a group for them,
because because they are an exception to the rule, and so they believe that
it goes for everyone else.
That
That
goes
they're
the same
better.
for everybody else.
Yeah.
And then they look down upon people who just don't have the ability to
or the
do
resources or anything like that.
to do what they did.
But that's where the problem lies. Like, you can be conservative or you can be Republican, but you shouldn't, like, because especially with Blair White is that she takes like a trans person who may be like very visibly queer, and then she holds them up and like, look how weird they are,
They're not passing or something like that.
Yes, she's so mean.
And she's actually trans. Like,
she also did blackface, but
Really?
yes.
Oh, I forgot about
So
that.
I don't really know who Blair White is. Is she
She's a YouTuber.
passing, or is
She's
she-
passing.
Yeah, she's a
and she shames people for
not passing, for
Just looking too stereotypical.
queer, or just like having dyed hair and pronouns, like just stuff like that.
so
and,
they don't have pronouns. Like,
Pronouns?
That's really
No, we, us is also a pronoun. I, that's a pronoun. Yeah, they have pronouns.
Why?
But yeah,
Because
Why
it's like
don't they want people to put their pronouns?
Guys,
What are
just
we supposed to
refer-
refer to them as?
I think they mean like they, their pronouns and neo pronouns and stuff like
it's
that.
again
Just refer to me as my name or that.
yeah.
That. I'm that.
Or not even like she's not to hate on people who say this, because there are trans people who will say this, is that like, I'm not a woman, okay? I understand that I'm not a woman. I'm a trans woman. And I'm like, okay, you don't have to like,
You don't have to make it so
It's-
specific.
I think it's
It'd be
again
weird.
a community issue.
Yeah.
yeah, it's just
I've heard like trans women feel like they should be considered as women and not like trans women. Like they should just be all together like women. So that's interesting that you say they say the opposite.
I mean, even trans men will also say that. I mean, because there's another YouTuber that I forget his name, which is good, but it's like, how do I explain this?
So divided.
Yeah, it's divided, and I specifically think it's divided because they want to feel superior than the people that are in their community and stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of the killer of solidarity. If you hand people money, then they won't choose community. You know what I mean?
People are greedy.
Yeah.
But maybe they also just say that because I always see like comments and stuff where like people are still like, you're not a woman, you're biologically born a man. Like they say those types of things so that maybe
Because-
like messes with their like, mentality. They're like, okay.
But that's I think it works so much is because they're backed by people who think the same thing. Again, like it really is just a community solidarity issue. There's just so many spaces within spaces, and everybody thinks the same, but yet they think differently. And it's just really easy. It's really interesting to see, especially because there are just so many branches and so many ways you could find a topic and then divert to another and then somehow circle back into the other. It's really cool. But we are running on, so we're going to talk about the projects that we're working on and what have you learned about solidarity in that context. But first of all, let's talk about our projects. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. So I'm doing a piece on, hold on, I gotta refresh the brain. I'm doing a piece on solidarity between people who are quote unquote meant for more, in the sense that they have either lost their potential or are victims of wasted potential because of their circumstance, because of their mental health, or some other factor. There's again so many ways that I could direct that issue, but I think that's the reason why I picked that topic specifically is because I have always felt that I'm meant for more. At least, like, I grew up like the golden child, gifted child, and then I experienced burnout, and I'm doing a lot better now. But like, when you are pressured to do great things and then all of a sudden you slip and there is no more great,
There's no more praise.
Yeah.
Especially, that's the biggest part. There's no more praise when you slip up.
Yeah, it just feels like the whole world is against you, and I wanted to do a piece to let people know that they're not alone in that regard. And it's coming along. So yeah.
My project is about the queer community and how trans people are excluded from that community. Yay! I am non-binary myself, so I think I have a little bit of knowledge on how trans people are usually excluded from the queer community, and this usually involved like old protests where they were excluded from having their rights, or still they're still kind of like excluded from that community. And also when the old protests and everything like that, a lot of people were actively like hurt because they were trans, even by people who are gay or lesbian, bisexual, all of that.
My project is about just solidarity among black mothers and them coming together and finding solidarity within their shared experience with gun violence in Chicago, as it's the summertime. And I've noticed that a lot of shootings have been going on, fatal shootings, and the main targets are young black children. So I feel like it's always an issue and a topic that's not talked about enough on the news. You don't really see people who look like us, diverse or brown and black children, getting news coverage like how white children do. So I feel like just something that should be talked about.
My topic is about solidarity within the black community as well, but I decided to focus mine around Fred Hampton because the moment I saw solidarity, he's the first person that came to my mind, because I just heard his speech and like how he was saying that, I was like, what does solidarity mean? And then I would look it up. So I also chose that topic because he fought for so many different things, so I was like, I can delve like into different things, like, and make it more easier for me to talk about, since he fought like for numerous of things, but not even just about the black community. He wanted like coalition between like all types of groups of people, and I really love that. And he wanted to put a stop to gun violence and educational programs, stuff like that. So I decided to talk about him because I admire him a lot.
Real. My story is about the different activist groups in Chicago, because many young people want to do political change because of the stress that politics, specifically today's politics, have on them, but they don't know where to start, and they feel the weight of the world on them. I want to focus on how solidarity between these groups and solidarity within your own community is extremely essential and probably the most important part in social change.
Yeah.
Cool. And then, following up on those answers, what have you guys learned yet or so far? Like, for example, I've learned that around 90% of people go their lives unfulfilled in some regard, and only about less than 50% of Americans can say that they're very satisfied with their lives, which is a little sad to me. I feel like everybody should have an opportunity to explore and like figure out their dreams, but some people are confined by their situations and their reality that they just can't do anything about it. And I think that's also one of the reasons why I was so interested in the topic, because again, my situation has affected me. Like, I really want to go to Massachusetts, but I can't. Not yet, at least.
Why?
Because I'm broke and I'm poor.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
My family's below the poverty line, despite the fact that we have 8 people in our house. And everything is just there's just so much paperwork that is involved, and it's
too much.
Really
and when you're an adult, you'll be able to handle it at that point, but maybe right now isn't the best.
Yeah, and like reeling it back in, there's just so much help that's not offered. So it's just really interesting. I can't wait to finish writing my piece and then present it, because it's a lot.
I learned during my project that people are still proud to be trans. Let's go, okay? Because so many people are still proud to be trans, despite having so many people against them, even in their own community, because it is such a struggle to go through, and also it's so much effort. And when you notice like people who are trans men, trans women, and they have gone through hormone replacement therapy or anything like that, or any transition really, like any part of their transition, and people are still proud to be trans because that takes a lot of work, money, care, and everything like that, and it makes them happier. That's the most important part.
Love that for them.
I've learned that a lot of people don't really have hope in seeing an end to the violence in Chicago, at least not anytime soon.
Dark turn.
But it's a commendable topic, so
No,
you're
of
doing
course.
Yeah, so I've also learned that looking into like the issue regarding gun violence and black women, some black women feel like it's not, like it doesn't relate to them or doesn't have anything to do with them. I thought that was an interesting take. I didn't expect that as an answer, but it's always good to have different a variety of responses.
I learned that, like, I don't know if it's just my community, but nobody seems to like really be out there or like get out there in the neighborhood besides the older people, especially people of our generation. Like, nobody wants to talk to each other, to get to know their neighbors.
Especially recently in Chicago. I don't want to like interrupt you too much, but Chicago is one of the worst cities to find a date in, actually.
Oh, wow.
It's actually like so many people in Chicago are single because it's such a non-social city.
It's a social city, but a not social city at the same time.
It's not social to people who are already there and have been there for a while, and when they welcome tourists. They make sure to welcome them.
But towards each other, they're not very that social. Like, nobody of like the younger generation really wants to learn about any of the current events, anything in their community. They just let it happen. Like, they don't really care too much about it. So it's hard to find solidarity when nobody really cares for it that much. It's usually the older people that are talking about it and trying to solve stuff. So that's what I learned, and it's kind of hard because it just is like the older people are the only ones that care, but we're the ones that's supposed to really be putting in most of the effort.
I think one of the things I want to say to that is, in a week or two, I'm going to go to an organization incentive, and I think what I'm trying to highlight is that as much as it sucks, you have to be the one to like reach out.
No, yeah.
Or else it's just never gonna find you.
Yeah.
There's only so much that other people can do for you. And really, you gotta take it by the reins. Like,
look it up online. Go on Instagram. You'll find it.
You really will.
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunities out there. Like, the organization event that I'm going to is just, we're gonna talk a lot about militarism and imperialism and social injustice. But I wouldn't have known it existed if I didn't at least try and get out there.
Yeah.
That's not to say that, I think what I'm trying to say is that so many people are scared of failing that they don't even try.
That's true.
Yeah. Sorry.
And honestly, to piggyback on both of you guys' answers, what I've learned is the many different organizations that are in Chicago, and kind of like, I guess a revelation of why people kind of avoid politics is because, like, I feel like
it's dangerous sometimes.
Not only because it's dangerous, but because it's just like how people feel, because people kind of feel like the world is ending, and it's not just
people are really nihilistic.
Yeah, it's not just young people, it's older people, it's middle-aged people. It's everyone just feels this immense dread, and they think that because they don't have enough money or because they're working, they can't do anything, when the like most efficient and almost easy, because it's easier said than done, is unifying your community, is through solidarity.
Yeah.
I think that's true.
And also, I think people are scared of politics nowadays because it's not really an open space. Like, you say your opinion, they want to dox your location, they want to find
they want to dox you.
You can't say anything without getting attacked, and I think that's one of the
no one has an
issues.
open mind,
which
really.
which is connecting it all back, why we as people look for communities that we thrive in and can relate to,
because then it feels comforting compared to people who are just yelling at you.
Exactly.
Yeah, aka twitter.com or
x.com.
I'm not calling it that.
Well, I think that's a wonderful note to leave off on. If anything, it's very funny. But thank you guys so much for joining me today. Let's do little reminder introductions, like outro introductions. So again, I'm Aisha. I'm 18. I am a multimedia journalist at Straight Level, and it was a pleasure to be here today.
I'm Jai. Thank you for having me.
I'm Alexa. Thank you for having me.
I'm Lapassion. Thank you for having me too.
I'm Toby. Thank you for having me.
Bye.
Hey, it's Rex from Chicago, and for more great stories like this one, check us out at mildsauce.com.